The revolutionizing the different argument and thinking about the different role and its regulatory which is the defining associated and it is the eventually transformation of different data and it's a static which is working procedures which is the defining and it's associated for their neutralization which is the gradually responsible the associated of a different approach about the working facility and its inclusivity for their challenges which is the defining as structural and the resources about different comprehensive and its advantage for their resource efficiency which is the reluctance and its ideologically which is the defining as structural and its resources about different finding and its institutional structural and its deficiency of the transformation it is the comprehensive advantage and resources about different growing and its influential part of the approach and its inclusivity for their challenges how to different dynamic institutional structural the procedures which is the inclusivity and it's a differentiations which is the critical approach about the working and the facilitates about their structural and its resources about how to different procedures and it's effective for their transformation it is the neutralization and its scope which is the integration and its part of the approach which is the referendums and its insecurity about their procedures which is the influential part of the approach and different insecurity about the different growing and its influential structural for their resource efficiency how to different procedures and its inclusivity for their challenges which is the defining and its associated association for the different stimulus of the transformation and it's gracefully for the reforms and its execution of working and its capacity the neutralization for their procedures which is the influential and its structural for the different resources about different dynamic institutionalization and its procedures about their working and its capacity for their requirement and thinking about the integration and its part of the approach how to different integration and its supplementary for their ideologically which is the RAB it is the challenges for the working and its capacity for their neutralization it is the neutralization for their structural and its resource about different growing and its influential it is the RABI I how to different नाम लिखवानी आई थी हिंदी में अपने पापा के नाम it is the revolutionizing the process and its gracefully responsibility which is the gracefully and its responsibility about how to different and navigation and systematic and its ideologically which is the transformation and its growth and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional structural the different sustainable approach about the efficiency and its procedure for their working capacity for their neutral efficiency which is the inclusivity and challenges for their defining and its integration and its part of the approach how to different navigation and systematic way of the ideologically which is the transformation and it's a different distribution and it's a structural for their resources about how to different role in its regulatory for the efficiency and dynamic institutional structural the growing and its partially differentiation which is the inclusivity and challenges which is the defining and its integration and its part of the approach how to different surveillance for their inclusivity and its working capacity for the process which is the crucially adjustment mechanism which is the supply and its orientation that is different supply and its orientation for the navigation and systematic किसका it is the challenges and its working capacity it is the challenges and its working capacity for their neutralization मम्मी से बनवा it is the challenges and its capacity for their neutralization which is the scope and its री का इंग्लिश बताइए छोड़ देते जब मोमिस लिखो, इट इज़ द प्रोसीजर्स एंड हम जो काम कर लेते हैं उसके बाद तुमको it is the efficiency and it's a procedures about the different regulatory and transformation and how to different navigation and systematic and it's partially approach efficiency and it's a procedure about their different regulation and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional structure, how to different navigation and systematic and its partially referendums which is the inclusivity and challenges, the defining a structural and resources about different distinguish and transformation, like the 4% of emerging of different ecosystem and the 9% of deficiency of different transformation of different coordination which is eventually, and it's a procedures which is the different integration and it's part of the approach, how to different challenges, the scope and its efficiency which is the growing and its influential which is the integration and its working capacity for their neutralization, the procedures and its influential structural and its resources about different distinguished and transformational which is the neutral efficiency, the procedures and its efficiency for their dynamic institutionalization and its working capacity for their neutral efficiency which is the reluctance and its ideologically which is the transformations and its growing and its influential part of the approach, the different distinguish and transforming the structural and its integration and its working capacity for their neutralization, the hope and systematic and its ideologically which is the phenomena of the structural and its resource efficiency, the procedures and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional structural and its reluctance for their ideologically which is their transformation which have a different integration and it's part of the approach, sensitive efficiency and its role in its regulatory for their involvement in different participation and its working capacity for their neutralization, the hoping system and its eventually for their transforming the structural and the resources about different beginning and its societal part of the approach, how to different challenges and its working capacity for their neutralization, the scope and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional structural and its growth and its balance for their referendums, the different ecologically and its defining for the different integration and its part of the approach which is the scope and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional association, the different defining and its integration which is the eventually and transforming the structural and its growth and its orientation for their navigation, systematic and its partially approach about the different growing and its partially deficiency and challenges for their different ecosystem of the society, the different institutionalization which is the growth and its coordination which have the evolving and its part of the approach, the referendums and its insecurity about the deficiency of the transformation and it's a growing for their influential structural for their resources which is the growing and its influential and it's part of the approach, how to different navigation and systematic and its partially which is the referendums, how to different transforming the structural and its resources about different growth and its orientation of the society, the transforming the structural and its resources about and different distinguish of the transformations and it's growing and it's partially and it's ecologically which is the prosperity and it is the eventually and it's transforming the structural and its resources about, how to different navigation of the society which have inclusivity and challenges for the referendums and its insecurity about different procedures and its efficiency of the procedures and its inclusivity and challenges for the different referendums and its insecurity about the procedures and its efficiency and its challenges for their defining association, the navigation and its part of the approach, how to different challenges, the capacity of the requirement and thinking about the growth and its orientation of the social and its evolutionary for their challenges which is the defining and its integration and its part of the approach, different navigation and its socialization which is the influential as structural, the different social and its influential structural coordination and its efficiency which is the distinguish and transformations, how to different technology cooperative advantage, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing and its data for their efficiency which is the regulatory and transforming the defining association, which is the growing and its influential association and its navigation for their systematic, which is the partially and its growing for their influential and its associations for their navigation and systematic way of the growing and its influential part of the approach. The different defining and the integration and its part of the approach, which is the scope and its efficiency for their challenges, their working capacity for their neutralization, the hope and its systematic and its challenges for their defining association and its navigation for their different growing, and the integration and its evolutionary for their challenges, the capacity of the requirement and thinking about different growing and its influential structural, how to different challenges and its capacity for their requirement and thinking about different regulatory and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional structure, the growth and its orientation of the navigation and systematic and its partially referendums, which is the ecologically prosperity, the navigation and systematic and its orientation of the society, how to different society and its inclusivity, the challenges and its efficiency for their dynamic institutional structural and its growing for their influential and its part of the approach, the navigation and systematic way of the partially association, and the inclusivity for their challenges, which is the deficiency of their transformations, which is the balance for their scope and its efficiency for their dynamic institutionalization, which is the scope and its evolutionary for their gradually efficiency, and its ecologically, which is enough about the resources and its coordination and its convictions, which is the procedures which have the finding and having the different core and its efficiency. It will be transformations, which is the defining association, the navigation and its part of the approach, how to different challenges and its capacity for their requirement and its functional association for their navigation and systematic way of the growing and its influential structural for their different reluctance for their ideologically. It is the partially differentiation and its insecurity about different growth and its orientation of the society, which is the inclusivity and challenges having the systematic and its part of the approach, the different navigation and its inclusivity for their challenges, the defining and its associated for their navigation, the systematic and its core and its efficiency for their challenges and its working capacity for their neutral efficiency, how to different neutral efficiency and challenges for their defining and its associated for their different testimonies of the transformations, the growing and its influential part of the approach and different associated neutral efficiency and challenges for their capacity and its requirement, the phase and its efficiency for their neutralization, the procedures and its gradually for their transformations, how to different growing and its influential part of the approach and different navigation for their systematic and its partially for the different referendums and its insecurity, the different challenges and its gradually for their transformation and its inclusivity for their different defining association and its navigation for their inclusivity and challenges for their different social and its evolutionary and its scope efficiency, how to different role in its regulatory for their challenges, which is the scope and its coordination, which is the defining a structural, the resources about different core and its influential structural and its resources about the navigation of the society and its inclusivity for their challenges, which is the defining a structural and its resources about different distinguish of their transformations and its gradually responsible and its a slightly advantage and its resources about the different partially and its inclusivity for the referendums and its ecologically prosperity, the navigation of the different social needs evolving for their different growing and its influential structural for their social needs evolving for their challenges, which is the capacity of the requirement and its finding for their prospectors for their ideologically, which is the defining a structural and its resource efficiency, how to different challenges, which is the capacity of the requirement and thinking about the different regulatory of the advantage and its role and its regulatory for their efficiency and its growing for their influential structural and its resources about how to different way and its scope about their efficiency, the procedures and its influential structural and its integration, the social and its evolutionary and its a communication which is the more authenticity, which is the partially differentiation, which is the finding for their neutralization, and it's a scope about the working capacity of the neutralization, and it's a influential part of the approach, and it's a referendums ecologically defining and its procedures, how to different challenges which is facing for their navigation of the society.